Hey guys, tonight we begin a gentle journey back in time, more than 2,500 years ago, to the dry and sun-warmed lands of ancient India. Picture yourself walking slowly down a dusty road, your bare feet brushing against soft earth that crumbles like powder. Around you, the landscape glows in golden hues, tall grasses swaying in a warm breeze, coconut trees nodding in rhythm with the wind, and low hills in the distance, washed with the orange light of a setting sun. A long caravan stretches ahead, oxen pulling creaky wooden carts loaded with clay pots, woven baskets, spices wrapped in palm leaves. Bells tied around the animals' necks chime faintly, their sound barely louder than a whisper. Somewhere in this caravan walks a man in a simple saffron-colored robe, not a monk, but a merchant. His name is Suchita, and he's not alone. Far behind him, out of sight for now, another caravan has begun this same journey. Its leader is bold, charming, and shrewd, but his heart hides many shadows. His name is Gahapati. You'll meet him soon enough, but for now, you walk with Suchita. The road to the village of Savathi stretches on soft and slow, the kind of road where you have more time to think than talk, more time to feel than explain. And so, you let the day's silence settle into your breath. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere far away, post your city and local time in the comments. It's always lovely to know where this sleepy road is reaching tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk next to Suchita's cart. He's not much older than you, perhaps 30. His face is calm but weathered, eyes focused ahead, not lost in thought, just quietly awake. There's no urgency in his pace. He knows the road. He's taken this path before. But this time, it feels different, because this time, there's been talk. Talk of another merchant traveling ahead of him. Talk of someone who doesn't trade in fairness, but in false promises. Someone who brings silver smiles and leaves bitterness behind. Suchita has heard these rumors, and though his heart remains still, the corner of his mind flickers with concern. As the caravan rolls forward, the land begins to change. You pass a mango grove, its leaves deep green, its fruits dangling like golden lanterns. Children's laughter floats from a nearby hamlet. You glimpse a herder guiding goats through a stony field. A monk in ochre robes sits beneath a neem tree, eyes closed, face turned toward the wind. No one speaks, but everyone sees. Suchita does not stop. He offers a slight bow to the monk and walks on. There's a lesson the Buddha once taught, a subtle one. That right view begins not with the eyes, but with the intention behind them. And Suchita's intention tonight is clear. Not to make a fortune, not even to gain favor, only to walk the road straight as it is. No shortcuts, no masks. The sun dips lower. A flock of birds sweeps across the violet sky. Somewhere far ahead, a jackal calls. The earth releases its heat slowly, like a sigh after a long day. The oxen begin to grow tired. Their hooves leave soft prints in the sand, like faint memories fading as they're made. Suchita gently pats the neck of his lead ox, whispering, "We'll rest soon, my friend." And then, just as the road curves near a cluster of tamarind trees, you notice the first sign of the village ahead. Smoke rises in calm spirals from clay chimneys. Shadows of huts stretch across the fields. A woman in red carries a pot on her head. A man bends low to tend to his vegetables. It is not a grand place, just a scattering of lives quietly unfolding. A place where people still believe what they're told. At least, they used to. Because unbeknownst to Suchita, 2 days before another merchant had passed through here. Gahapati, with sweet words, gleaming wares, and a smile that held no sorrow, he told them his goods were rare, priceless, that the world beyond their village was full of lies, but he alone could be trusted. He promised them fine cloth, true silver oils that would heal their joints. But what he gave was hollow, pots that cracked within days, oils thinned with river water, promises he never meant to keep, and then he vanished. Now, as Suchita approaches the air in the village, holds something tighter. The kind of silence that comes not from peace, but from guarded hearts. But for now he does not know. He only knows the stars are rising, the oxen need rest, and his own feet feel the ache of distance. He guides the caravan to a halt beneath an old fig tree, unrolls a mat, lights a tiny oil lamp, and looks up at the stars. "May truth be my companion," he murmurs, "even if it walks alone." Above him the moon begins to climb, soft, full, forgiving, and somewhere far down the same road, the memory of betrayal still lingers in the villagers' minds, waiting to test the man who walks with nothing but honesty in his hands. The village of Savatthi greets you not with fanfare or welcome songs, but with silence, a quiet, lingering stillness. As Suchita guides his oxen slowly through the narrow path between mud-walled homes, a few heads peek out, then vanish behind woven doors. A mother calls her child inside. A shopkeeper sweeps the dust outside his stall but avoids eye contact. Even the dogs seem less curious than usual. Something is off. You feel it in the way the breeze changes, not cooler, not warmer, just watchful. Suchita notices too, of course, but he says nothing, just offers a gentle nod to the people he passes, whether they meet his eyes or not. His carts are still covered, his goods untouched. He has not yet offered to trade. He knows better than to lead with words. Now let's shift just slightly and look a little behind him, metaphorically, of course. You see, while Suchita moves with calm honesty, the man who came before him, Gahapati, moved like silk over stone. Charming, convincing, and false. Gahapati had arrived days earlier, just as the sun rose over the fields. He brought with him fine cloths, dyed in brilliant hues, though the dyes were known to bleed with the first wash. His baskets were lined with shiny trinkets, polished just enough to deceive the eye. He came with honeyed words and feigned humility. Said things like, "I offer these wares for half their worth, because your village reminds me of my mother's kindness. Or I give not for profit, but for merit." He smiled as he charged triple the true price. And because the villagers had never been tricked before, because their hearts were open and their minds unguarded, they believed him. They gave him rice oil gold coins. They traded their harvests and the work of their hands. And when the rain came that evening, the painted pots peeled, the silks stained their skin. The oils caused rashes. By dawn, Gahapati was gone. So now, when Suchita walks through the same gates, their trust is no longer a flowing river. It is a dammed pond, clouded with suspicion. A young boy sits on the edge of the road carving a flute from bamboo. He watches Suchita's caravan pass, then whispers, "It's him again." Or another one like him. Inside a nearby hut, a grandmother mutters, "We've no more to give. Let them move on." Suchita leads his oxen to a clearing near the village well. He unrolls a square of cloth and sits down, folding his legs beneath him. He doesn't unpack a single item. He just waits. Eventually, an elder approaches a man named Anoma. His beard is streaked with ash gray, his shoulders still firm, though his spine bends slightly with time. He carries a walking stick more for ceremony than support. "You've come to trade?" he asks flatly. Suchita bows slightly. "Only if it serves both sides." Anoma squints. "We've nothing left." "I understand. You say that, but they all say that. I won't offer anything unless I'm asked." Anoma eyes him for a long moment. There's no rage in the old man, just weariness, the kind that settles into bones after too many nights of regret. Finally, he nods once. "Stay if you wish, but don't expect much." Suchita smiles gently. "I expect only the sky to change, and even then only in its own time." It's a simple answer. But Anoma hears something in it, something not Gahapati. And so he turns and walks away without another word. That night, Suchita prepares a modest meal beside the well. He offers a portion to the earth, a portion to the hungry spirits, and eats the rest in silence. A few children watch from behind a cart. One of them whispers, "He didn't even open the crates." Another replies, "Maybe he's waiting until we fall asleep." Still no one comes. You watch the moon rise higher, see its pale light dance across the leaves. Somewhere in the trees, a nightjar calls out. A gentle rhythm like a slow heartbeat. Hours pass. Then, just before dawn, a girl no older than 10 walks up to Suchita. She carries a chipped clay cup and asks, "May I take water from the well?" He gestures softly. "It belongs to all, not to me." She hesitates, then adds, "Are you the same man who took my brother's sandals?" Suchita shakes his head slowly. "No, I am not." "Do you promise?" "I do not make promises I cannot keep. But I promise you, I am not he." She studies his eyes the way only a child can, fully, deeply, without filter. "Your oxen are nicer," she says, and turns back with her water. As she leaves, Suchita looks up at the stars one last time before dawn fades them away. When trust is broken, he whispers, "Truth must be patient." Historians still argue whether this tale preserved in the ancient Jataka texts reflects a literal event or a symbolic lesson. Some say it's allegory. Others insist it's rooted in a real merchant's journey. But either way, what matters now is the breath in your lungs, the feel of the air in your room, and the slow understanding dawning in the hearts of villagers who've forgotten what honesty looks like. The sun rises slowly over the village of Thada, brushing every thatched roof and dusty path with gentle amber light. Roosters call out from afar, goats begin to stir, and cooking fires bloom like little stars at ground level one by one. Suchita wakes early, before the first pot is placed on the hearth, before the children run barefoot through the morning mist. He rolls up his mat, feeds his oxen, and walks a slow circle around his cart, not checking his wares, but as if greeting them softly. Each item has a story, each pot shaped with breath, each fabric dyed with care, each spoon carved during a quiet hour beneath a neem tree. He does not go door to door. Instead, he sits right beside the village well, cross-legged, still, and waits. At first, no one approaches. A few glance his way, quickly look away. The older women shake their heads. Too clever, one says. He waits for us to beg, then pretends to give out of kindness. But some begin to wonder. It's been 2 nights. His cart remains untouched. He hasn't even opened a crate. No sweet words, no flattery. Just silence and patience. By mid-morning, a boy comes near. You might recognize him from yesterday, the one with the bamboo flute. He doesn't say anything, just sits a few paces away and starts whittling again, occasionally glancing up, trying to match the merchant's calm. Then the little girl returns, the one with the water cup. This time, she brings her mother. Her mother carries a clay bowl cracked near the rim. She kneels beside Suchita and says nothing at first, just places the bowl between them. My husband traded for this, she murmurs. It cracked after one use. Suchita picks it up gently, turns it in his hands, taps it near the crack, hears the faint thud of weakness. It was poorly fired, he says. Low heat, too fast. So the man lied. Suchita shrugs softly. Or didn't know better. Can it be fixed? He shakes his head. But a new one can be made. I'll give you one if you'll use it. The woman frowns. Why would you give it? I came here to trade, but not always for coin. She squints at him. So what do you want? A story, he says. She blinks. Tell me what this bowl carried before it cracked. The woman pauses. Then, a little unsure of herself, she says, millet, for our midday meal. And before that, she tilts her head. A bit of ghee, I think, left over from a festival. Then it deserves a proper farewell, he says. I'll take the bowl, and in exchange, you'll have a new one. One that sings when tapped. She doesn't quite understand, but she nods. This is not a sale, not a trick, not a transaction. It's something else. A few children gather around. He opens his cart finally. Not dramatically, not to show off. Just quietly lifts the cloth and takes out a simple, elegant bowl, earth-colored smooth. Taps it lightly. It sings just a little. The woman accepts it, not with excitement, but with caution. Trust is still a bird with wet wings, but it flutters ever so slightly. By midday, the well becomes a kind of meeting place. Villagers bring cracked pots, faded cloths, and stories of what was traded away to Gahapati. Suchita listens to each, not interrupting, not judging. He doesn't blame their naivety, doesn't call out the crook by name. He simply offers what he has in return for honesty. A farmer gives him a woven mat and admits it's old, torn at the edges. Suchita smiles. But the middle's strong. That's all a man really needs to rest. A girl brings a tiny wooden comb and says I have no use for it. I cut my hair when the rain spoiled the oil. He replies, then perhaps it belongs to someone who still waits for the rain. You begin to feel something shifting. It's not dramatic. No drums, no parades. But it's steady, like soil softening before the sprout. Historians still debate the plausibility of such an encounter. Did villages really reopen their hearts so quickly after betrayal? Was this a real tale or a gentle moral wrapped in memory? But none of that matters now, because you are not in a history lecture. You are beside a well in a village, slowly unlearning suspicion. As the sun begins to lean westward, a woman approaches carrying 2 cracked plates. Suchita greets her with the same nod he's given everyone else, but she doesn't kneel, doesn't speak right away. Finally, she says, "You're not like the other one." He smiles slightly. "I would not want to be." She studies him. "But how can we know we trusted once, and we were burned?" He replies softly, "Then let fire make you wise, not afraid." The woman's shoulders ease, and she too trades a story for a bowl. That night, the well becomes quiet again. Suchita lights his oil lamp just like before. The children don't watch from behind carts anymore. They sit near him, fiddling with stones, drawing patterns in the dust. A boy asks, "Do you have a toy?" "I have a story," Suchita replies. And they listen. Above, the moon listens too, silent and full. In this little corner of the world, truth has not won with noise. It has simply waited, and now you rest too in the soft rhythm of acceptance. Let your breath settle with the dust. Let the sounds fade into the folds of night. You are safe here. Tomorrow the lesson continues. The next morning arrives not with urgency, but with a slow yawn of light. The village of Thata stirs like an old cat, stretching, blinking, resuming its rituals with a touch more ease than the days before. It's not trust, not yet, but it is less tension. And sometimes that's how it begins. Suchita once again sits by the well. He doesn't hawk his wares, doesn't call out to anyone. He sharpens a wooden spoon with a rounded stone. The kind of motion that requires just enough focus to quiet the mind, but not so much that it burdens the heart. Today something changes. A group of men approach, not hostile, but cautious. One of them is tall, broad-shouldered, with a streak of suspicion written across his brow. His name is Bandhula, a grain merchant. His voice is steady, but cold. "You gave away bowls yesterday," Bandhula says, arms crossed. Suchita nods. "For what?" "For the truth. Seems like a bad trade." Suchita smiles. "Only if I expect to resell it." Bandhula eyes him. "Do you?" "No." A pause. Then the man drops something at Suchita's feet, a bundle of grain tied in palm leaf. "Test it," he says. "Tell me if it's clean." Suchita unties the bundle, slowly sifts the grain between his fingers, feels the grit, the weight. He lifts a few kernels to his nose, closes his eyes. "It's good," he says, "but damp. It won't keep long." Bandhula narrows his eyes. "That's what I thought. You said nothing sweet about it." Suchita shrugs. "It isn't sweet. It's useful." Bandhula crouches. "So why are you really here?" "To trade." Suchita answers simply. "No," the man presses. "Not just goods, something else." Suchita looks at him, not with defiance, with clarity. "I'm here to prove," he says slowly, "that the truth is patient. And the patient man is not foolish." Bandhula holds his gaze, then grunts, nods, and walks away. That afternoon, more villagers arrive. They don't bring damaged goods this time. They bring questions. "Do you believe in the Buddha?" a woman asks. "Yes," Suchita replies, "but belief is not ownership. I live his teaching as best I can." "Do you follow the 5 precepts?" "I try." "Do you chant?" "Sometimes." "Do you meditate?" "Not often enough." There is laughter, not mocking, but relieved. He is not perfect. He makes no pretense. A boy asks, "What's your favorite thing you've ever traded?" Suchita thinks a moment, then answers a cracked mirror for a song. They look puzzled. He explains. The mirror showed only the past scratches. Fog, regret. The girl who gave it to me had a voice like river wind. I told her, "Sing me a song and I'll take the mirror and let it forget." And she sang, she did, a lullaby for a grandmother who'd passed. I still remember it when I sleep. You pause here too, letting the image drift over your mind. A girl, a cracked mirror, a man who trades not for profit, but for release. Near the well, a dog comes and lies beside the cart, a sign perhaps. Animals often know what hearts cannot yet say. Now comes the part most often left out in shorter retellings of the Apanaka Jataka. A subtle beat, but a necessary one. A monk enters the village, not just any monk, but a bhikkhu, who had once traveled with the Buddha himself, though age and solitude have since made him wander in silence. His name is Vakali. He doesn't speak right away, doesn't offer teachings, just observes. Then toward evening he sits beside Suchita beneath a flame tree. "You don't preach," Vakali says, eyes half-lidded. "I don't sell dharma," Suchita replies. "It's not mine to give." "And yet you live it," the monk murmurs. "I try," the merchant says again. There's quiet between them, just the creak of the ox cart settling in the cooling earth. Then Vakali says, "I once heard the Blessed One speak of truth as a cartwheel, its center unmoving, even as it turns. You remind me of that wheel." Suchita bows his head, not out of pride but gratitude. But beware, the monk adds, even stillness can crack under arrogance. "Keep empty." "I will," says Suchita, "like a pot that's useful only because it's hollow." The monk smiles. "Ah, you've listened." Night falls again. The villagers begin to speak differently among themselves. They say he's not like the first one. They say he listens. They say he gave my daughter a blanket and only asked what dream she had last night. Little by little, mistrust dissolves. Not quickly, but persistently. And you listening now feel the same slow shift inside your chest. That maybe not everyone comes to take. That maybe silence can give. That maybe truth, when walked with gently, becomes a path of its own. As you drift into your breath, let this thought settle with you. The wise do not rush to correct the lies of others. They simply continue to live their truth until it's undeniable. Dawn breaks with a softness that feels earned. The air is cool, the sky brushed with sleepy strokes of lavender and gold. A few birds trill their morning songs, but otherwise everything holds a calm stillness, like the village itself is taking a long, slow breath. Suchita rises early as always. He sweeps the area around his cart with a palm frond broom, not because it's dirty, but because sweeping in this quiet hour clears more than dust. It clears the mind. Today marks the 4th day since he arrived in Thata. He has not made a single coin. But his cart is lighter, not because he has sold goods, but because he has given many of them away. In exchange for something far more subtle: memory, laughter, apologies, and dreams. By now, people greet him not with suspicion, but with nods. Not with flinching, but with questions. One man approaches carrying a bent ladle and a tired expression. "My son asked if you could fix this," he says. Suchita inspects the ladle. "I could mend it," he replies, "but the bend would remain. It would always stir to one side." "Is that bad?" Only if you want soup that tastes the same on every edge. The man chuckles. He made it himself. First time he worked metal. Suchita hands it back. Then keep it bent. It remembers his hands. The man walks away smiling. That morning, children bring little drawings they've made on palm leaves. A girl gifts him a necklace made of seeds. An old woman offers him a poem she wrote the night before, 4 lines about the moon grief and how both fade gently. It is here in this soft unfolding that something unexpected happens. The crooked merchant returns. Yes, Gahapati, you see him before anyone else. He walks with his usual flair, a bright sash, polished sandals, and the confident swagger of a man who believes time erases betrayal. His oxen snort impatiently. His cart, freshly painted, bears the same false gleam as before. But as he enters Thata, something shifts. No one runs to greet him. No one calls for spices or fabrics. Children do not chase his cart. Elders do not step forward with baskets. He frowns. Strange, he mutters. They were grateful last time. He parks his cart near the square and raises his voice. Good people of Thata, I bring rare saffron Bengal silks, sandalwood from the west. The words echo, but the ears they seek remain closed. Suchita watches from the well. He does not rise, does not interrupt. He simply observes. Gahapati approaches him, peering over the cart. Ah, I remember you. The honest one. Still giving things away for stories. Suchita smiles faintly, still listening. Still poor then? Poor in coin. Wealthy in breath. Gahapati snorts. You think virtue can fill your stomach? Suchita replies no, but it softens hunger in the heart. Gahapati scoffs and moves away. But even now, as he sets up his stall, as he unrolls his fake silks and thinned-out oils, the village does not move toward him. They gather instead near the well, not for goods, but for presents. A young boy recites a riddle he learned from Suchita. A girl asks to see another hand-carved spoon. An elder brings fresh ghee in exchange for nothing, saying only, "It's good to share with those who've stayed." Gahapati watches confused. He calls out to Bandhula, the grain merchant. "Come, I'll give you a bag for half what I asked last time." Bandhula doesn't even turn his head. And so for the first time, Gahapati feels something unfamiliar, the ache of being seen. Truly seen. Later that evening, a strange thing happens. Gahapati returns not with wares, but with a single broken bowl, the very kind he once sold with such pride. He kneels beside Suchita, places it between them. "You win," he says, voice low. "There was no contest," Suchita replies. "I came here to take. You came to give." "No," Suchita corrects gently. "I came to listen." Gahapati looks down. "Can it be fixed?" The bowl, Suchita asks. Gahapati nods. "No," Suchita says softly. "But it can be remembered and replaced with one you make yourself." Gahapati stares at him. "For what price?" "Your name," Suchita says. "What?" "Tell the villagers your real name, the one you had before you began lying." There's a long silence. Then in the hush of twilight, the merchant whispers, "Renu." Suchita smiles. "Welcome back, Renu." Historians still argue whether this section of the Apanaka Jataka was added later. Some say it softens the moral too much. Others claim it shows the true power of transformation, not punishment, but the slow miracle of being seen even after failing. And perhaps that is the greater lesson, that even the one who misleads can return if he has the courage to be known. Let that thought settle into your breath now, as gently as a hand over a heartbeat. Let it soften your memories of those who hurt you. Let it remind you that not every journey leads away, some circle back. Night in Thata returns with a hush as deep as the well beside Suchita's cart. The stars have taken their places, each one patient, still, and glowing, just enough to suggest stories untold. A few villagers light oil lamps inside their homes, their golden flicker swaying with the wind like gentle nods of acknowledgement to the darkness. By now, Suchita has become something of a fixture. Not a merchant, not quite a guest, more like a quiet flame that keeps burning, not asking for fuel, but warming the space around it nonetheless. And tonight, by that same well, the girl with the chipped water cup returns. Her name is Mira. You remember her, the first child to question him, the first to look into his eyes and ask, "Do you promise?" Now she comes carrying a small bundle wrapped in cloth. She holds it carefully and sits down beside Suchita without speaking. For a long moment, they both listen to the night frogs calling in the paddies, a breeze brushing through the neem trees, a low owl hoot from the hills. Finally, she unwraps the bundle. Inside is a small jar of salt. Coarse, irregular, a little damp. "I want to give you something," she says, "but it's all I have left that's mine." Suchita looks at the salt, then at her, his eyes soft. "Do you know?" he says slowly. "What happens when you put a spoon of salt in a small cup of water?" Mira nods. "It becomes bitter, and if you put that same spoon into a big lake, it disappears." "Not disappears," he says. "The salt is still there, but the bitterness doesn't overwhelm." She tilts her head. "Because the water is wide, because the heart is wide," he answers. Mira stares at the jar. "Do you think our village can become like a lake again?" "It already has," Suchita replies. "The moment it let one grain of trust dissolve without anger." They sit in silence for a while. The stars seem closer now. Then Mira asks, "Why do people lie?" Suchita doesn't answer right away. He smooths the cloth in his lap, watches the flicker of the oil lamp. Sometimes he says at last, "Because they think the truth will make them small." But the truth doesn't shrink us. It returns us to our right size, which is exactly the size of a kind breath. You breathe with them there by the well. The night wraps you gently like a shawl. Elsewhere in the village, a quiet shift continues. Gahapati now Renu doesn't leave. He doesn't pretend anymore. He keeps to himself, but not in shame. He walks slower now, doesn't shout his offers. Sometimes he just listens. On the third night since his return, he brings a cracked mirror to Suchita. "I bought it for vanity," Renu says. "Now it shows me too much." Suchita turns the mirror over. Its backing is faded, the reflection cloudy. "Do you want to forget your face?" he asks. Renu shakes his head. "I want to remember it, honestly." Then he hands over a folded cloth, one of his last fine silks. In exchange, he says. Suchita accepts the silk, but instead of tucking it away, he gives it to Mira. "For your mother," he says. "It looks like something she would wear when the monsoon begins." Mira beams. Renu watches stunned. "You could have sold that." "I could have," Suchita agrees. "You don't care about profit." "I care," he says gently, "but I care more for balance." Historians love to argue over this part. Some suggest Mira was a fictional composite character. Others believe she later became a nun inspired by this very exchange. The truth, like most stories from the Jataka, isn't in the details, it's in the feeling that lingers long after. And right now that feeling is spaciousness, the kind that comes when bitterness dissolves. Let that image sit with you now, a jar of salt, a wide lake, and the taste of water that holds everything, but harms nothing. As you lie back, listening to the quiet creak of a cart, the flick of a flame, the hush of night air moving through a fig tree, you realize there are stories that shout, and there are stories that settle. This one is the latter, and it's not done yet. Morning in Tata breaks without announcement. No trumpets, no bells, only the rustle of banana leaves and the stretch of light across thatched rooftops. Dew clings to the rice paddies like shy blessings. And once again, Suchita is already awake, sitting beneath the same fig tree, gently sanding the edge of a wooden bowl. By now it is no longer strange that he is here, no longer strange that children approach without hesitation, that elders nod, instead of whispering, that people bring their stories along with their broken things. But today brings something else, something older. A bhikkhu, an ordained monk from the Sangha, is arriving from the south, robes ochre and dusty staff, clicking softly on the ground with each step. He is not from Thata, nor even from this region. His name is Anuruddha, and he has come not by chance. He was sent by the Master himself, by the Buddha. Suchita recognizes him from years ago, a chance meeting at a river's bend, when both were much younger and less certain. They greet each other quietly. Still carrying bowls, Anuruddha asks, gesturing toward the cart. Still emptying them, Suchita replies with a smile. The monk's eyes crinkle. I was told you're healing a village. Suchita shakes his head. The village is healing itself. I'm just holding space. Anuruddha settles beside him. The Buddha says, when the heart is full of aversion, truth cannot enter. But when the heart is emptied of blame, even silence becomes a teaching. That, Suchita nods, has been my only sermon. They sit together under the tree as villagers pass, bowing gently, offering food, greetings, questions. Anuruddha speaks softly. Do you know why the Buddha sent me? Suchita glances over. He said, Anuruddha continues, there is one who does not wear my robe, but walks my path. He trades not for gold, but for trust. Find him and listen not to what he says, but to how he waits. Suchita looks down humbled. Meanwhile, in the village square, Renu, the merchant formerly known for his deceit, has begun to change. He no longer tries to sell. He offers, and when people decline, he bows not with bitterness, but with understanding. It's a slow penance, a quiet unraveling of the false pride he once carried like a jewel. At midday, a small gathering forms near the well. It isn't a market. It isn't a sermon. It's something in between. A woman asks Suchita, why don't you wear robes like the monks? He replies, because I was not called to renounce the world. I was called to meet it gently. Is that not harder? She presses. He nods. Sometimes, but even a cart must move over stones. Then she asks, what is the best thing you've ever given away? Suchita thinks for a long while. Finally, he answers, my anger. There is silence, a slow inhale among the crowd. Then Anuruddha says, and what did you receive in return? Suchita smiles. Stillness. You sit with that for a moment. You let it echo in your chest. You think of the things you've carried. Bitterness, blame, memories like cracked pots you never set down. And you wonder what might happen if you traded them not for revenge or even justice, but simply for stillness. Later, as the sun begins to lean westward again, Mira returns with her mother. They carry a tray with rice, lentils, and mango slices. For you, Mira says shyly. And for the monk, Anuruddha receives the food with both hands. Suchita bows. They eat in silence. Then Anuruddha speaks. This village has remembered something ancient. What is that? Asks Mira. That truth, he replies, is not loud. It walks barefoot. And it waits. Suchita finishes his meal and turns to her. And now he says it walks with you. You feel that, don't you? That slow inheritance, like a whisper passed from palm to palm, never needing ink or scrolls. Only breath. Historians still argue about whether this tale, so simple, so ordinary, deserves its place in the Jataka. But the Buddha himself taught the small is not to be dismissed. A mustard seed, after all, can hold the weight of liberation. Let that seed settle in you now. Let your thoughts drift like dust in early sun. Let the stillness arrive not with force, but like footsteps on soft earth. Evening arrives like a blessing, slow, quiet, and golden. The scent of tamarind and boiled rice hangs in the air. Lanterns are lit earlier than usual tonight, not out of necessity, but out of invitation. The village of Thada, once wrapped in suspicion and silence, now breathes together, as if each home has become a lung exhaling mistrust, inhaling peace. You find yourself again at the well, this time not beside Suchita, but across from him. You imagine the ground beneath you, still warm from the sun, the hum of insects filling the space between words. The water in the well catches the sky's reflection, half twilight, half memory. Suchita is speaking with an elder named Kamala. Her face is folded with decades, her hands worn by weaving mats and holding babies and praying for rain. But her voice is steady, and her mind as sharp as a bamboo spine. I remember, she says, when merchants came like storms, fast, loud, and gone before the damage showed. Suchita nods. And now? She studies him. You are not a storm. You are dew. He chuckles. That means I disappear at sunrise. She smiles and leave everything softer. Then she leans closer. But even dew must fall from somewhere. What shaped you into this? He thinks for a moment, then answers a lie I once told. Her eyes sharpen. He continues. When I was younger, I cheated a man out of his last blanket. Told him it was my dying mother's, that I needed it to keep her warm. I kept the blanket. My mother never knew. But that night, I could not sleep beneath it. Kamala waits. I gave it away the next morning, he says, to a monk shivering on the road. But the shame stayed. It burned longer than the lie. And that shame became your teacher, she asks. No, Suchita replies gently. The monk did. He never asked where it came from. He just said, may you always sleep warm within and without. You feel a chill at that, don't you? Not from cold, but from recognition, because somewhere inside you too lives a moment you regret. A word not taken back. A kindness withheld. A truth avoided. And you too wonder, can one warm act truly absolve an old frost? Kamala reaches into her satchel and brings out an old silk thread. My last, she says. I've saved it for decades, meant to weave it into my granddaughter's wedding cloth. But she never married. Suchita accepts it as if it were gold. Then let it become something for the village, he says, a line in the story. That night, the thread becomes the centerpiece of a new cloth. Children help Suchita weave it, a little crooked, a little frayed, but undeniably beautiful. A patchwork of old sari scraps, palm leaf threads and stories. At dusk, Anuruddha the monk blesses it not with a chant, but with a silence so deep it feels like a bell ringing underwater. You know, the monk says softly, when the Buddha spoke of truth, he did not mean a weapon. He meant a mirror. And what does it show? Mira asks. It shows what you are without your fear. The cloth is draped near the well that night, fluttering in the breeze. Gahapati Renu approaches slowly, humbly. He brings a small offering, a clay pot shaped awkwardly, still damp at the base. I made it, he mutters. It's not even round. Suchita lifts the pot and holds it to the light. Then it won't roll away, he says. A soft laugh escapes Renu's lips, maybe the first true one in years. Historians rarely mention this cloth. It was never preserved. It frayed with time, as all things do. But the story, oh, the story wove itself into more than just fibers. It became a way of being, a way of coming forward, not with perfection, but with sincerity. And maybe that's all any of us want. To sit by a well, to trade regret for presence, to know that even a life once bent can still be mended if we bring it forward honestly. So let this image rest with you now. A crooked pot, a patchwork cloth, a monk in silence, a merchant who listens, and you breathing slower, deeper, softer than you did before. The next morning, a soft drizzle kisses the village roofs. It's not a storm, just a whisper of rain enough to perfume the earth and hush the chickens into slow movements. The sky remains bright behind the clouds, and the world seems to breathe in one long, grateful inhale. Suchita rises with the first scent of wet dust. He wraps the cloth that the children and Kamala helped him weave and places it gently beneath his cart's canopy, like one might protect a sacred scroll or a fragile hope. It is not for sale. It is not for display. It simply is. As he adjusts the ropes, a small voice chimes in behind him. Can I ask you something strange? It's Mira, of course. Suchita smiles. Strange questions are the best kind. She twirls a blade of grass in her fingers. Do you ever miss your old life? The one where you made lots of money? He sits beside her on the edge of a low wall. Sometimes, he admits, especially on cold nights or long roads, when the rain leaks through your blanket and the ox refuses to walk. She giggles, imagining the stubborn animal. But he continues, I never miss who I was. Why not? Because that man was full, but only of himself. This one, he says, tapping his chest lightly, has more space inside. She considers that. Space for what? For silence, he says. For questions. For other people's sorrows. Mira nods. I think I want to be a listener too. You already are, he tells her. And you don't need a cart to carry stories. Their conversation is interrupted by a slow, rhythmic clanging in the distance. It's Renu. You remember him, formerly Gahapati, the dishonest merchant. Now each morning he helps the village blacksmith with simple tasks, carrying water, sorting nails, cooling metal. He no longer wears bright silks or calls attention to his presence. His sash is plain, his shoes scuffed, but his steps softer. Later that morning, Anuruddha the monk gathers a circle of villagers under a neem tree, not to preach but to ask questions. What he begins makes a merchant noble. People murmur. Some say fairness, others say humility. Anuruddha nods to each, then turns to Suchita. And you? The merchant looks around at the children giggling in the grass, at Kamala, weaving in the shade, at Renu washing his hands in the basin. He answers memory. There's confusion in the silence, so he adds, a noble merchant remembers the cost of things, not just in coin, but in trust, in time, in tears. Kamala nods slowly, and a dishonest one forgets all but profit, Suchita says, and loses what no wealth can buy. There's a hush that follows, not heavy, but reverent, as if truth has tiptoed through the gathering and left behind a scent, not a sound. Later that day, Suchita walks alone through the village paths. He stops to help an old man lift a bundle of firewood. He kneels to repair a child's broken sandal with a bit of cloth from his own pack. He doesn't say much, but everywhere he goes, people smile, not because of what he gives, but because of how he sees them, not as transactions, but as lives. And all the while the sky remains overcast but kind, the kind of day that holds you gently and says, "No hurry." As twilight arrives, Mira finds him sitting by the cart reading a scroll by lamplight. "Tell me a story," she says. He rolls up the scroll. "What kind?" "One that never ends." He smiles. "Ah, the best kind." And so he begins, not with dragons or kings, but with a road and a cart, and a man who gave away a bowl to a girl who only had questions. As he speaks, the story loops back to the beginning, and you realize this is that story, the one that never ends, because it isn't about how it finishes, it's about how it changes the one who hears it. The Jataka tells us that the Buddha in a past life was Suchita, the honest merchant, that his choice to walk in truth without demand or reward became the seed for enlightenment. Some scholars question this. Some say the name was added later, that the story was shaped to teach a lesson. But here under the stars, it doesn't matter, because truth doesn't need permission to enter. It just waits for a space. And tonight that space is you. So let this moment linger as you breathe slowly. A child asking questions, a merchant answering with stories, not slogans, a bowl that sings when tapped, and a village where even the rain feels soft. Let sleep come, not like a curtain closing, but like a well filling gently, one quiet drop at a time. A full moon rises over Thada, hanging low and serene like a pearl suspended above the fig trees. Its light spills across the rooftops, dapples the water in the village well, and settles on the cloth woven from scraps and memory. Tonight it flutters gently with each whisper of wind, silent but full of story. Suchita cannot sleep. He lies on his mat beside the cart, eyes open to the sky, hands resting over his chest, as if holding something fragile. Not regret, not longing, just stillness. From across the square he hears slow footsteps, familiar ones. It's Renu. He approaches carefully, holding something in his hands. Not a pot, not a trinket, but a tiny oil lamp already lit. A flame no bigger than a cricket's song. "I made this," Renu says. Suchita sits up. "I used the broken clay you gave me. Pressed it, shaped it, baked it in Kamala's old fire pit. It's uneven. It leans. But it burns." Suchita accepts the lamp as if it were the most delicate of treasures. "It does," he says softly, "and that's more than most." They sit in silence, the two of them former rivals, if life had followed another road. Now just men, one holding a lamp, the other holding space. After a long pause, Renu asks, "Will you leave soon?" Suchita thinks, "Maybe." "You've done your work here," Renu adds. "Not mine," Suchita replies. "The village's." Renu looks at the flame. "I thought I came here to sell, but I think I came to remember." Suchita nods. "You ever wonder," Renu says, "if people like us can really change? Or are we just pretending better?" Suchita doesn't rush to answer. Instead, he takes the lamp and sets it in front of them. Its light dances between their shadows. Then he says, "Do you know what happens when a crooked pot holds a flame?" Renu shrugs. "The light still shines," Suchita says. "But the shadows dance differently." Renu laughs quietly. "So crooked isn't useless." Crooked, Suchita replies, is human. Just then Mira appears barefoot, wrapped in a blanket, rubbing her eyes. "I couldn't sleep," she says. Suchita gestures to the space beside them. She curls up next to his mat head, resting on a folded shawl. "Tell me something before I dream," she murmurs. Suchita leans back, looks at the moon and begins. "There once was a village that forgot what kindness looked like." Mira interrupts. "No, I've heard that one. Tell me another." "All right," he smiles. "There once was a lie so loud and clever that it tricked an entire town. But then a silence arrived. It didn't argue. It didn't punish. It just waited. And the lie, hearing no applause, grew quieter. Until one day, even it wanted to be true." Mira hums sleepily. "I like that." And with that she drifts. The flame flickers, casting soft glows on her face. Renu closes his eyes. Suchita lays back, watching the night unspool like a scroll above him. Historians rarely dwell on this part of the Apanaka Jataka. No transactions, no tests, no moral turning point. Just men, a girl, and a lamp. But maybe that's where the real wisdom lives, not in the grand gesture, but in the quiet after, where people share light instead of judgment, where redemption is not earned by heroics but by humility, where a merchant lies under the stars and remembers that presence is the greatest gift. So let this light stay with you now. Let it rest gently on the ridges of your thoughts, softening the places you've judged yourself too harshly. Let it remind you that crooked can still carry, and quiet can still change. You are not asked to be perfect, only patient, only real, and in that there is peace. By the time the morning sun climbs over Thata again, the well has become more than just a place for water. It is now a circle of stories of beginnings of return. Villagers no longer come simply to draw water or pass through. They linger. They wait for one another. They greet Suchita and Renu not as merchants, but as part of the village itself. And on this morning, a new visitor arrives. She wears robes the color of marigold, and her hair is cropped close. She is a bhikkhuni, a female renunciant named Dhammaja. Her presence is quiet but firm, like the last note of a gong that still hums after the sound has faded. Suchita sees her first. He bows gently, not out of show but in recognition. "You walk lightly," he says. She replies, "The earth prefers it." They speak for a while beneath the banyan tree. Her story is familiar in its uniqueness. Once a daughter of a wealthy man trained to manage estates, she gave it all up after a single encounter with the Buddha beneath a mango tree. "I had everything," she says, "but nothing that stayed quiet when I closed my eyes." Suchita smiles. "Then we've walked similar roads." Later, she speaks to the villagers. Not with fire, not with scripture, but with a parable about a goose who once thought the lake was the whole world until it flew above the clouds and saw that peace wasn't in the water, but in the wing that dared rise. Sometimes, she says, truth lives in stillness, sometimes in movement, but always in listening. That evening, Renu brings her a simple garland of jasmine. He says nothing, but she understands. He too has taken flight after a long time paddling in murky waters. That night, as the village sleeps, Suchita walks the perimeter, checking on oxen, tightening the cart ropes, Placing the woven cloth back into the crate, he feels a tug on his sleeve. It's Mira again. Are you leaving soon, she asks. Soon, he says. But why? He crouches beside her. Because the lesson has landed. And staying too long is like leaving the lamp burning in daylight. She frowns. But I like having you here. You like how it feels to remember who you are, he says gently. That feeling will stay. Then she does something unexpected. She takes from her pocket a small round pebble, smooth polished from river time. This is for your pocket, she says. So you carry something from here. Suchita accepts it with both hands. And what will it remind me of? That we believed you, she whispers. And that you believed us. In the great tangle of Jataka tales, this moment is often overshadowed. It isn't flashy. There's no dramatic confrontation, no fire-lit speeches. Just a child offering a pebble and a man receiving it as though it were a scripture. But in that tiny gesture lies the entire truth of transformation. It begins with belief. It ends with presence. The next morning, Suchita wakes before the birds. He does not pack in haste. He does not announce his leaving. He simply prepares quietly as always. And the villagers, somehow knowing without being told, begin to arrive. Kamala brings a satchel of dried herbs. Renu offers a wooden box filled with simple clay buttons he's made. Anuruddha brings nothing but bows. Damaja offers only her smile. And Mira places a flower on the cart. To keep the pebble company, she says. Suchita climbs onto the cart, reins in hand. The oxen are rested. The road ahead familiar. But before he goes, he speaks. You have given me more than I brought. You have reminded me that truth does not shout. It listens. And that healing does not rush. It waits. The cart begins to roll, but not away, forward, because leaving is not forgetting, and departure is not absence. As the cart disappears beyond the curve of tamarind trees, the village does not return to before. It lives differently now, trades differently, listens more, speaks less, and every so often at the well, someone will sit and wait, just in case another stranger arrives, one not in search of profit, but of presence. Let this moment become your well now. Let yourself sit beside it with your thoughts like clay pots, some cracked, some whole, all worthy of being held. Let the silence teach you. And when you are ready to move, let it be like Suchita, not running, not hiding, just continuing. The road that stretches out beyond Thada isn't new. It's the same earth Suchita arrived on. Same dusty curve, same stones pressing into the wheel grooves, same tufts of grass peeking out along the ditches. And yet everything feels different, because once a place has accepted you, not for what you bring, but for who you are, you carry it with you. In silence, in the slow breath you take as you leave, in the way your footsteps remember each name, each face, without needing to look back. Suchita does not rush. The oxen walk at their usual pace. The cart creaks with familiar rhythms. The flower Mira left bobs gently from a corner of the canopy, and the small round pebble rests in his pocket, cool against his leg. A little weight, a little reminder. He doesn't look back, not because he's hardened or stoic, but because he doesn't need to. Thada is no longer behind him. It's within him. The morning unfolds like a chant, soft repetitions of tree sun shadow wheel. Birds call from the branches. A pair of deer cross the road ahead. Somewhere nearby, a stream murmurs beneath the reeds. and Suchita begins to hum. Not a song, really. Just a vibration like the voice of the road rising through his chest. As he passes the first bend, he sees an old man sitting beneath a banyan tree. Alone. Thin. Eyes closed. Suchita slows the cart. When he stops, the man opens one eye. "Do I know you?" the elder rasps. "Not yet," Suchita says. "But maybe by evening." He unpacks a blanket, a bowl, a pouch of dried mango, offers them all without ceremony. The old man blinks. "Why?" "Because the world turns better when no one is hungry," Suchita replies. The man smiles, a tooth missing, a wrinkle deepening. Suchita moves on. As the road continues, he meets others. A boy tending goats, unsure how to treat a fevered kid. A mother walking barefoot with a baby slung over her shoulder and a heart full of worry. A craftsman whose tools were stolen and whose hands shake with anger. To each he offers something. Not always an object. Sometimes just a story. Sometimes just a listening ear. But each time he gives something of himself and never leaves lighter in worth, only lighter in burden. That night, Suchita camps near the foot of a small hill under a cluster of acacia trees. The sky is clear. The stars arrive one by one, like guests to a quiet festival. He builds a fire simple and small, sits cross-legged as always, and thinks not of Thada, not directly, but of what it means to walk a life with nothing hidden. He takes the pebble from his pocket and holds it up to the firelight. It gleams slightly, just barely. "You are not gold," he murmurs, "but you weigh more than a coin." He places it beside him as if inviting company, and then without warning a memory returns. The voice of the Buddha, gentle, calm, and alive even now in the folds of night. Just as a merchant on the road must choose companions wisely, so too must the mind choose the thoughts it walks with. Suchita smiles. His companions have changed. No longer regret. No longer pride. Now patience, quiet joy, a readiness to meet whatever comes without reaching for what's gone. Somewhere a nightbird sings, and he sleeps not because he is tired, but because he is ready. Ready to close the eyes, knowing that the heart remains open. Historians often lose track of Suchita after this. There are no records of his final days. No plaques. No shrines. Only echoes, villages that whisper of a man with a cart and calm eyes. A man who gave more than he sold. A man who listened so deeply that others remembered who they were. Some say he met the Buddha again much later and ordained. Others claim he lived as a householder, quietly spreading goodness like rainwater in dry soil. But the truth, as always, is simpler. He walked, and in his walking, others followed not behind, but within themselves. Let that image settle with you now. A road with no destination, a merchant with no goal, only a path, only presence, and a world that changes not through force, but through footsteps. The following days unfold like the beads of a mala, one after another, smooth and deliberate, each carrying the same rhythm of silence, kindness, and intention. Suchita moves through villages, the way a breeze slips between trees, not demanding attention, but noticed all the same. In one hamlet, he helps a widow mend her fence with nothing but bamboo twine and quiet encouragement. In another, he offers warm lentils to a family whose crops failed. He does not linger long in any place. He stays just until the rhythm of presence replaces the echo of suspicion. It's here beneath a wide sal tree halfway between two districts where he meets a boy named Deepa. Deepa is perhaps 12 years old with dust-covered cheeks and eyes too old for his age. He stands by the road holding a bundle of firewood, clearly waiting for someone. Suchita greets him with a nod, slows his cart. Expecting someone, he asks, "My father," Deepa says. "He went to the forest and hasn't come back." "How long ago?" "2 days." Suchita steps down. He doesn't panic, doesn't question further. Instead, he asks, "Would you like to sit with me until he returns?" Deepa hesitates, then nods. They sit under the tree. For a long time, neither speaks. Eventually, Deepa says, "Most people just tell me to stop worrying or go home." Suchita replies, "Most people think words are water, but sometimes silence quenches better." Deepa glances at the cart. "Are you a merchant?" Sometimes, Suchita answers. "Mostly I carry what others leave behind." "Like what?" "Stories, regrets, dreams people forgot they had." Deepa considers that. "And what do you give in return?" "A place to lay them down." That night, Suchita shares his blanket and his food with the boy. The stars are bright, and the wind smells of lemongrass and distant rain. Before they sleep, Deepa asks, "Were you always like this?" "Like what kind?" Suchita smiles. "No, but I was always searching." "For what?" "For the moment when I could stop pretending to be better than I was." Deepa turns on his side, silent. In the morning, before the sun has even warmed the road, a shout rises from the edge of the trees. It's Deepa's father, limping slightly, carrying a bundle of sticks and a bruised pride. He got lost, waited for help that never came. Deepa runs to him, clings tightly. Suchita watches but does not interrupt. He simply packs his mat and offers the boy a small pouch of tamarind seeds. "For planting," he says, "wherever feels most forgotten." Deepa hugs him. His father, unsure of the man who helped his son, asks, "What do we owe you?" "Nothing," Suchita replies. "But if you pass another who is waiting, sit with them a while." As the cart rolls on, Deepa waves until it vanishes. That's how stories like these travel, not by page or scroll, but by people changed enough to notice others. A few days later, Suchita finds himself beside another well. This one older, ringed with moss. It hasn't been used in some time. The village nearby is quiet, almost withdrawn, as if holding its breath. He stays, just long enough. He sits beside the well. People pass, some curious, some indifferent. Then a woman with a broken basket pauses. She remembers a story. A man with a cart. A boy with firewood. She kneels and says, "Did you help a boy named Deepa?" "I sat with him." "You have time for sitting?" she asks. "I have nothing more precious," Suchita replies. And just like that, it begins again. The ripple, the quiet, the remembering. Historians say that some merchants once used tricks to draw crowds, drums, animals, loud proclamations. But the Apanaka Jataka reminds us the truest draw is integrity. It doesn't need noise, it only needs consistency. And in Suchita, consistency is devotion, not to doctrine, not to commerce, but to the soul of things. The broken basket, the waiting boy, the cracked pot, all of it worthy of presence. So tonight, as your own breath slows, let your mind walk with him. Let your worries be the bundle of firewood you've carried too long. Let this moment be the tree where you sit and rest without needing to fix anything right away. Let kindness arrive not as a task, but as a shape your silence takes. You don't need to be always strong, only sincere, only still, only ready to listen. It is said that in the kingdom of Kosala, a merchant could travel from border to border and be known only by the contents of his cart. Spices, silks, trinkets, grains, each object told a story of trade. But Suchita was different. When he arrived in the town of Jetavana, people didn't ask what he sold. They asked what he'd heard. What news from Thata? Do they still meet at the well? Is it true the dishonest merchant became honest, and Suchita, as always, did not tell tales for their own sake? He offered only the pieces that planted seeds. He said, "Yes, they gather." He said, "Yes, truth returned there, but not as a speech, as a silence that others leaned into." He said, "Yes, people can change, but only when they stop trying to appear good and begin trying to see clearly." People listened, not because he spoke loudly, but because his life had become the echo of his words. In Jetavana, he took no rest in the inns. He slept beneath the tamarind tree near the monastery, where the Buddha himself was staying that season. And though he did not seek an audience, word reached the Sangha. One evening, as twilight dipped the horizon into the color of sandalwood smoke, a young novice approached him. "The Blessed One invites you," the novice whispered. Suchita stood without hesitation. He followed the boy past lamplit courtyards, past rows of meditating monks, past murals painted in the silence of reverence. And there, beneath a canopy of stars and banyan branches, sat the Buddha. He looked up and their eyes met. No need for bows, no need for names. Recognition flowed in stillness. The Buddha gestured to the space beside him. "You have walked far," he said. "I have," Suchita replied. "Are your burdens lighter?" "They no longer burden," Suchita said. "Only accompany." The Buddha smiled. "That is how truth travels best." They sat together without speech for what felt like a full turning of the moon. No lesson was given, no sermon declared. Just two presences, one fully awakened, the other gently waking. Finally, the Buddha spoke again. "There are those who teach with words, and those who teach by walking." Suchita bowed his head. "I only walk," the Buddha replied. "Then let your steps continue. There are many still waiting beside their wells." That night, Suchita returned to his cart and found a new stillness had joined him. Not an absence of motion, but an understanding that his walking had become its own kind of dharma. The next morning, as he prepared to leave Jetavana, he found a group waiting, not to buy, not to ask, just to walk with him a while. Children, merchants, widows, monks, and even a potter who once tried to sell a cracked bowl as new. They walked in silence for miles, no destination, only the rhythm of feet on dirt, only the wind in the trees, only the shared understanding that kindness doesn't need to be explained, it only needs to be extended. That evening, the group parted ways naturally without ceremony. Some returned home, some kept going. And Suchita, as always, found a clearing near the road, set his mat, lit a lamp, and waited for the stars. He remembered Mira. He remembered Renu. He remembered the cloth, the song, the mirror. But more than anything, he remembered how all of it had begun with a simple choice: to trade not just goods but honesty, to carry not just items but intention, to speak not just truth but trust. Historians never found record of this encounter between Suchita and the Buddha. No stone tablet bears their names side by side. But then again, not all truths are carved. Some are passed by footsteps, some by bowls, some by the way silence lingers after kindness has landed. So as you close your eyes, now let that silence surround you. Let the dust settle from your day. Let your breath match the pace of a cart rolling slowly under moonlight. Let your heart remember you don't need to fix the world tonight. You only need to walk it kindly. The road now winds gently through open fields, golden with late harvest. Suchita's cart creaks softly as it rolls over dry grass, the oxen steady and unhurried. The air is warm but not heavy. It carries the scent of cumin and dust, and something more subtle, the feeling of arrival, though no destination is in sight. He has been walking for many moons. His sandals are worn. His robe is faded. The flower Mira gave him has long since dried into a pale curl of memory, tucked between two folds of cloth. The pebble still rests in his pocket, familiar now, its roundness shaped not just by river water, but by the meaning placed upon it. As he moves past a cluster of trees, Suchita sees a woman sitting beneath a neem, cradling a crying child. He stops the cart without thinking. She looks up weary-eyed. "I have nothing to give," she says before he can speak. "I didn't come to take," he replies. He offers a small wooden whistle carved from neem root. The child takes it, blinking through tears. A sharp blow, a soft note. The crying fades into a laugh. The woman stares confused. "Why? Why do you carry these things?" Suchita smiles. "Because people leave behind more than they know. I only help them find it again." Find what? The parts of themselves they trusted once and want to trust again. She covers her mouth, eyes welling. "I used to believe in kindness," she whispers. "You still do," he says. "You just forgot how it sounds." He moves on. That night, Suchita camps by a dry riverbed. He places his mat near a patch of smooth stones, one of which he adds to the pouch beside Mira's pebble. The stars arrive slowly, one by one, like students gathering for a teaching not spoken, but felt. He builds no fire. There is enough light in the sky. Lying on his back, he breathes in the stillness. Each inhale is memory. Each exhale is release. He doesn't know where the road ends, but he knows what it carries. It carries stories, not just his, but Renu's repentance, Mira's questions, the boy with the fevered goat, the potter with the crooked bowl, the widow with the herbs, the child who gave a song in exchange for letting go, all of them walking beside him now in silence, in spirit. And maybe one day someone will see a simple cart on a dusty road led by a man with calm eyes and a quiet smile. They'll ask, "What do you sell?" And the answer will be the same as always: trust. No fanfare, no banners. Just a life walked gently enough to leave the path softer for those who come after. Let this final thought stay with you now. You too are walking a road. You too carry stories, some heavy, some hidden. You do not need to rush. You do not need to fix every crack. You only need to be honest in your step and kind in your pause. Because somewhere someone is watching, not your wealth, not your cleverness, but how you treat the space between words, how you sit by the well, how you trade silence for safety, how you remember the soft weight of a pebble given with trust. Now, as we come to the end of tonight's journey, let your body settle into stillness. Feel the weight of the day gently falling away, like dust shaken from a traveler's cloak at the end of a long road. There is nothing more to carry tonight. You are not asked to answer anything now, not asked to solve, to explain, or to prepare, only to be. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts uncoil like rope that no longer needs to bind. There is room now inside your chest for quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, the kind of quiet that feels peaceful, like sitting beside a well at dusk, like watching a stranger become a friend, like seeing a crooked pot hold a steady flame. Tonight, May you rest like Suchita, under the stars, unhurried, unburdened, and whole. May your dreams carry stories, not of battle, but of bowls passed from hand to hand, of songs traded for silence, of roads walked gently, and truth spoken slowly. You have done enough. You have been enough. And now you are held by the same stillness that cradled our story. So close your eyes, traveler. Sleep well, sleep long, and walk kindly when the morning finds you again.